Hey everyone, it's Gwen, and I am back. So as most of you know, I have not posted any videos for the past 2 Saturdays. Now if you've seen my previous video, then you'll know why. Now if you don't know, the reason is because I was away traveling in Europe. I went to Europe to travel around France and Italy for 12 days. And the trip that I went on was absolutely amazing. So today, I thought that I would tell you guys a little bit about my trip and what it was like to be in a different country and a different continent. So as I said, the trip that I went on was for 12 days, and it was a school-based trip. I went on this trip with around 40 other kids and about 10 adults. Now keep in mind, before this trip, I had never been out of the continent, and I had only been out of the country once. So I had never been to Europe before, and I was super excited to see what it was like. I was specifically really excited to go to France, because that was where we were spending most of our time. We were only in Italy for the last 2 days, but it was still really fun. We saw so many amazing things in France. The first place in France that we went was Paris. Paris was probably one of my favorite places that we went. It was incredible, besides the heat wave. Of course, right when we go, there's a huge heat wave in Paris, and it was 100 degrees. It was so hot. The first few days, we were walking the streets of Paris and we were like dying of heat stroke. Like, it was literally so hot. But I'd have to say that it was worth it because we got to see some really amazing sights. In France, we went to the Notre Dame Cathedral, which was beautiful. Actually, a funny story about that. So, me and my friends, we went in there and we sat down. And first of all, we were really tired because when the plane landed, it landed in Paris and it was 6 a.m. in Paris. But it was like, 12 midnight for us. So we were exhausted, and because it was 6 a.m., we just started the day. We went to the hotel room, got settled, and then just started our day in Paris. And so we hadn't slept for the past 36 hours. So we went to the Notre Dame Cathedral because it was cooler in there, and it was quiet, and it was nice, and we could see the stained glass, which was beautiful. So we sat down, and everyone else around us was praying, and so we were like, okay, we should probably sit down, relax, and pray. So we sat down and put our heads kind of on the seat in front of us, and we ended up falling asleep. 2 seconds into us trying to pray, we were like, we had literally fallen asleep at Notre Dame Cathedral, which is pretty crazy and kind of cool to be able to say that I fell asleep there. It was funny because we were just gone. We literally just fell asleep so quickly. We were so tired. And then 15 minutes later, I woke up, not knowing where I was. I literally didn't know where I was. I was like, oh, I'm in the cathedral. And then I realized that we had to get back to the group in a few minutes. So I woke my friends up, and none of us realized that we had fallen asleep. We were all just like, oh my god, what even, where are we? So that was pretty funny. It's a pretty funny moment. But seeing the Notre Dame Cathedral before I fell asleep was pretty cool. Another place that we went to in Paris was Versailles, which was literally incredible. It was so big and it was so beautiful, and we got to take a tour inside of it, and the rooms, the paintings, the walls, everything was so incredible. We walked through all these different bedrooms and hallways, and walked through the Hall of Mirrors with all the chandeliers, and it was so amazing. It was the coolest thing ever. We also got to see the gardens outside Versailles, which were really pretty too. Now, I'm probably the only person that thinks of this, but when I looked out at the gardens, they reminded me of Peach's gardens from Mario. I don't know if you guys have ever seen her gardens, but you can see them really well if you ever played Super Mario Baseball or Super Mario 64. And so looking out and seeing these gardens behind Versailles with the grass cut in these strips and these beige tan cobblestone walkways surrounding them with a fountain in the middle, it literally looked just like Peach's gardens. And I don't know, that's what I associated it with, but it was still really cool to see it. And then my favorite landmark, probably the most famous landmark that we saw in Paris, was the Eiffel Tower. It was incredible. We took a boat ride and we could see it in the distance, which was amazing. And then after the boat ride, we got off and we spent from the evening throughout the entire night looking at the Eiffel Tower. It was incredible. We had a picnic right in this lawn area behind the Eiffel Tower, and so I was literally sitting there with my friends eating French food with the Eiffel Tower right in front of us. It was honestly the most incredible thing ever. And then in the nighttime, once it got dark, the Eiffel Tower lit up, and it was beautiful. And oh my gosh, I can't even describe it, it was so pretty. And then we even got to go up the Eiffel Tower. Now, we couldn't go to the top because 1, the line was incredibly long, and 2, they actually ended up closing the top of the Eiffel Tower down because there were so many people that were on it to go up there. They had to stop and close it down for a little while. And we were still able to go to the second floor, which honestly, you could see everything from up there. It was incredible. Now, we didn't really want to wait and take the elevator because that line was really long, so we all told ourselves, okay, we're just gonna walk to the top. So we got our little tickets and we walked up, like it seemed like a million flights of stairs to get all the way up to the second floor. We were walking and walking and walking, and then we finally made it to the first floor, and so we like took like a little break. They had like a little restaurant up there, so we kind of like hung out, sat down, I think we got like some drinks, and then we like looked out and we saw like the amazing view, which was beautiful. And then we were like, alright guys, let's brace ourselves, let's go to the second floor. And so then we got ready and we walked another like million flights, it felt like, until we finally got to the second floor with the real great view. And it was beautiful. I mean, I can't even describe it. The view was incredible. You could see all over Paris, you could see everything, and it was amazing. We took tons of photos up there. We were up there for like 30 minutes just taking photos of like all our friends, like of each other and of the view, and it was amazing. And I don't think it really hit me that I was actually there until I was walking up to the second floor. And as I was walking, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm walking up the Eiffel Tower. And like when you're walking up it, you can like see down and you can see kind of like through the bars, so you can still see like outside, which is a really cool part of it. And like looking up and looking out as I was walking, like it finally hit me, and I was just like, oh my god, this is really cool. So then after Paris, we went on to a bunch of other places in France. We took a little break and we went to a bunch of smaller villages, and we stayed at a bunch of different hotels throughout all these different villages. We saw a bunch of chateaux, which are castles. Chateau means castle in French. And they are just these huge castles, and they've all obviously been lived in by these different royals, and we got to learn about a lot of cool things and go inside these chateaux, which it was insane. I mean, they were huge. It was amazing. And we got to go up all these different like windy staircases and go to like all these different towers within the chateaus, and it was really cool. And some of them overlooked like rivers and like streams and valleys, and we all used to like pretend and joke around like, oh my gosh, what if this was our home? Like how amazing that would be. And so we'd walk through the castles and we'd look around, and it was a lot of fun. And then towards the end of our journey in France, we went to another big city in France, which is Nice. And we walked around Nice, we walked around the city, and it was great. We stayed there for 2 nights, and it was really, really fun. Also in Nice, this is pretty cool, I got a crepe on the street in France. And I actually had been waiting to get a crepe. I had been like looking around. I was like, okay, if I'm here, I have to get a crepe. Like, come on. And so when we were in Nice, I went over and I finally got a crepe, and it was amazing. Like, best crepe I've ever had in my life. I got it with chocolate and bananas, and it was so good. Oh my gosh. And it was like so thick too. Like, that was my lunch. It was amazing. It was so good. And then the last really, really fun part of being in France was that we got to swim in the Mediterranean Sea. We had a beach day and we got to go to the beach, which was beautiful. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. There were all these mountains, and there was really pretty like village behind us, so it was all colorful. The view was amazing. And then we all went swimming in the Mediterranean Sea, which I had never done before. I know it's a sea, but that was like the closest thing to swimming in the ocean that I've ever done, because obviously it connects with the ocean. But we got to swim in the Mediterranean Sea, and it was unbelievable. It was like the water was like warm, it was so nice, and you know, it was so hot. Throughout the entire trip, I can't think of a day where like I wasn't sweating. Like, it was really, really hot. So to be able to run into the water and swim for a day was really, really fun. And some of the hotels we stayed in actually had pools, and so we got to swim in some pools while we were there too, which was a lot of fun. And the entire trip was just fantastic. And then for the last 2 days, we got to stay in Italy, and Italy was really nice. We got to stay in Milan, which is like a big fashion capital city. And I wish we'd had a little more time to shop in Milan, but we still got to be there for the last 2 nights, and it was really nice. We got gelato on the last night, and we had a nice Italian dinner. And it was just nice to be in like a different country and hear like people speak Italian, and you know, because we'd heard French people speaking for the past week and a half, and I actually take French, which is nice. It was fun to like get to use it and order things in French and say bonjour and merci. It was pretty funny because when we finally got off the plane back to the US, whenever someone would give me something, I would automatically have the instinct to either say merci or grazie, because that's thank you in French, then thank you in Italian. And I was just so used to saying that I literally almost said it. I think I did say it to an American, and they were like, what? And I was like, sorry, my bad. But it was just pretty funny and kind of cool to have that experience. And the whole entire trip was amazing, and I'm so happy I got to go on it. And I really encourage you guys, if your school or high school specifically is doing any kind of trip to a foreign country throughout the world, you know, whether it be anywhere. I know that my school did a China trip a few years ago, and that looked amazing. Like, that would probably be the second place that I would want to go, right behind, you know, France and Italy. Like, this trip was my dream trip. Like, I wanted to go to both these places, and it was just incredible. So I encourage you guys, I really do, if your school is having a trip similar to this and you can afford it, I encourage you to go on it. I really do. You know, it's like it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity sometimes, you know, unless you go to Europe a lot. I do have friends that go to Europe, but I had never been, and this trip was an amazing opportunity, and it really opens your mind to other cultures and other languages and, you know, different ways of life, and it was really interesting, and it was so cool to see all these historical places. I mean, never did I think that I would get to have a picnic in front of the Eiffel Tower or walk up it and see it, and the whole experience was incredible. So I really encourage you guys to go to one of these trips if your school offers it. I think everyone should, you know, go on one of these trips if they can. I really do. And, you know, you might learn about places like Versailles, and you might learn about, you know, Italy and Nice, but there's a part of me that didn't really appreciate it until I was there and I was, you know, living in it. And I think that's the really cool part that you should be able to experience if you can. So that's all for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I just thought I should tell you guys a little bit about my trip, since that's where I've been for the past 2 weeks, and there's obviously been no videos. But now we're back on the regular schedule. Weekly videos will continue going on for the rest of the summer, so don't you worry. So from now on, I will see you guys next week. Bye!